This is the story of our protagonist Takashi, who remembered that as children, he and his crush and love, Rei, had promised to marry each other. But when she was suspended for a year, she grew distant from him because he didn't understand her. During that time, she met Kisashi, and they became very close. Rei did have feelings for our protagonist, but never felt they were reciprocated. Takashi couldn't believe they would break their promise. But at that moment, a girl named Saya, the smartest in the class, came along. She was annoyed to see him depressed over a childhood friend because she liked him but hid it by treating him like a loser. He simply ignored her. When he was still feeling down, a guy was at the entrance of the academy. The teachers went to see and didn't notice that the guy was dead. Then a teacher reached out his arm to grab him, but the guy bit him, infecting him, and he went on to attack the others. Takashi, who saw everything, went to Rei and explained that they had to get out of there. Rei refused because she thought he was talking nonsense, but Takashi slapped her, and only then did she listen. On the way, Takashi explained that people were killing each other, so they took precautions and called the police for help since Rei's father was a policeman. But the line was busy. Additionally, the school made an evacuation announcement, but in the middle of the announcement, the teacher giving it was attacked, causing panic among the students, who began hurting each other as they tried to escape. Meanwhile, the kids encountered a zombie. Despite stabbing it in the heart, it kept moving. Hisashi immobilized it, but the zombie twisted his neck and managed to bite him. Takashi realized it was a zombie, and when Rei asked for help, he reacted and discovered that attacking them in the head could kill them. But since the school was in chaos, they went to the roof and saw that not just the school, but the whole city was in chaos. Even the American army got involved. By then, most of the school was infected, and only a few had the wit or strength to survive. The kids ended up taking refuge at the highest point of the roof. But Hisashi started to feel sick, and the kids knew what that meant. Rei refused to accept it, but Hisashi knew he would turn into a zombie and asked Takashi to kill him. When he began to transform, Takashi knew what he had to do. Rei still hoped Hisashi would be okay, but he wasn't, and Takashi ended up killing him against Rei's wishes. Rei got angry with him and assumed he killed him because he didn't like him since he was her boyfriend. Those words hurt him, and he continued fighting the zombies because she didn't want to be by his side. But she apologized and asked him to stay by her side because she didn't want to see him die. He eventually accepted and hugged the girl he liked, having killed his best friend on the same day. Later, when the kids were talking about what happened, Rei ended up calling her father and was able to contact him, but he couldn't hear her. Since the city was in chaos and he was also struggling, the call ended up being cut off. Rei was sad because she didn't know if her father was okay and because she couldn't talk to him. Sure, here's the translation. On the other hand, those who managed to survive were Saya and a young man named Kuda, who would have died like the rest of the students if it weren't for Saya. There was also a doctor at the school named Shizuka. She was somewhat eccentric and survived because a student defended her. But when more zombies arrived, the boy sacrificed his life for her, although Shizuka didn't even know his name. When the zombies were about to attack her, Siko, the best fighter in the academy, arrived. She told the boy he had no salvation and, at his request, ended his life. However, the problems didn't end there. Saya and Kuda managed to reach the school's workshop, and since Kuda was a gun enthusiast, he began crafting a weapon. His personality even changed when he talked about guns. When Saya insulted him to hurry up, the zombies ended up breaking through the door, but Kuda had already created a nail gun. With a weapon in hand, the guy felt like a god and even ordered Saya to carry the bag of nails. She was the typical spoiled girl who didn't listen to anyone, but Kuda made her obey. Even though Saya didn't like him much, he planned to protect her because he liked her. The kids also took action with the school's pressure hose and ended up descending several floors. The others did the same, and Saya discovered that the zombies couldn't see or feel and were guided by sound. While Siko tore the doctor's skirt so she could run, the zombies surrounded the two of them. Since Kuda needed to reload, Saya instinctively defended herself, and because of the noise, the kids ended up finding each other. They immediately worked as a team and got rid of the zombies. Saya was still affected by what had happened, and when the kids introduced themselves, Saya wanted to let them know that she was very smart and superior to them so they wouldn't treat her like a fool. But they calmed her down because they knew the situation wasn't easy for her. Later, when things settled down, the kids planned to find a safe place and help people. But the news reported that the number of dead was over 10,000, and although the authorities were trying to help the injured, the situation didn't allow it. Moreover, the situation was the same worldwide. Rei still hoped everything would be resolved, but Saya was more realistic since the situation was similar to deadly diseases from centuries ago. But this time, the zombies wouldn't let the virus die out. So, the kids worked as a team to reach a safe place and help the survivors. They advanced and helped some students who had managed to survive, but leaving the school wouldn't be easy. Takashi tested Saya's theory that the zombies were only guided by sound, which worked until one of the students made a noise that was heard throughout the school. The kids ended up making their way through the zombies. Of course, not everyone survived, but our main group managed to reach a van. As they were about to leave, another group of students asked for help, including Professor Shido, whom Rei hated. Takashi was willing to wait for them, but Rei wanted to let the professor die because he only acted like a good person. When a student tripped and sprained his ankle, Shido used him as bait to move forward. In the end, the kids managed to escape, and on the way, the professor insisted that there should be a leader in the group. Later, a guy wanted to go to a place to hide, but since the girls disagreed with him, he got mad at Takashi just because he seemed like the leader. Rei put him in his place, but the professor took advantage of the situation and kept insisting that they needed a leader to prevent such things from happening. Of course, he proposed himself as the leader and, since he had most people in the palm of his hand, he ended up being the leader. Rei wasn't happy with that and preferred to go alone rather than with the professor. Takashi insisted that she endure it until they reached the city. But at that moment, a bus infected with zombies arrived and ended up separating the kids. They agreed with Siko to meet at the police station, so each one went their own way. After the kids exited the tunnel, a zombie attacked them, but they managed to take it down and found the zombie's motorcycle. They headed to the agreed-upon location. And although the rest wanted to reach the place, they couldn't advance because the way was blocked by the police. Back with the kids, after seeing the chaos in the city, they found a patrol car, and Rei ended up looting it, obtaining a firearm, although the bullets were limited. They also stopped at a gas station for fuel, but the pump only worked with a card or cash, and since Takashi was short on money, they had a discussion because Takashi wasn't as chivalrous as Hisashi. Her ex Takashi preferred that she lend him money rather than continue listening to her insults. But she had also forgotten her wallet. So, Takashi went to loot the store's cash register, but then a man grabbed Rei and wanted to keep her to do adult things with her. The man was crazy because he had to kill his own family to survive, so they couldn't negotiate with him. Rei tried to escape, but the guy caught her and groped her. He also wanted the motorcycle and, not being stupid, he forced Takashi to fill it with fuel. However, Takashi approached and wasn't going to let him run off with his girl, so he shot him. Rei wanted to finish him off, but the zombies arrived, so they ended up escaping, and the guy ended up being zombie food. On the other hand, there were zombies at the maritime airport too, but they were kept at bay thanks to a girl named Rika, who was a friend of Dr. Shizuka. Shizuka was already bored of listening to the professor's speeches, just like the kids. Putting that aside, people were looking for a safe place, and Saya deduced which places might be the safest. But it was already too late to go because they wouldn't be allowed in for the safety of the refugees. Saya was thinking about the best way to survive, but didn't know what to do because Takashi had left. Kuda asked her if she liked Takashi, and she denied it, which wasn't very convincing. However, Siko was very worried about Takashi. Meanwhile, the city turned into chaos and people weren't just attacking zombies. So, the kids had to deal with both zombies and people, but they couldn't reach the station because the main bridge was blocked by the police, and anyone who tried anything would be eliminated. While Professor Shido was brainwashing the students, the girls knew what he was doing but didn't care because they planned to leave the bus to find Takashi, as they had promised. Siko mentioned that her only family was her father, who was abroad, and Saya's parents were near the place where they would meet Takashi. Kuta's parents were in other countries since his father was a jewelry salesman and his mother was a model, which was hard to believe, but even his grandparents were impressive. The only one who was a disappointment was him. The teacher would accompany the kids since her parents had already passed away and she didn't trust the professor. When the professor realized they were planning something, they informed him that they were leaving the bus. He was fine with it but wanted the doctor to stay, not because she was a doctor, although he claimed that was the reason. Kuta punched him and didn't hesitate to kill him since he had always hated him for treating him like garbage, just like the rest. The kids ended up abandoning the bus but were surrounded by zombies. Fortunately, Takashi heard them since they were nearby, so he went to help them. Takashi handed the weapon to Kuta, who turned out to be a professional with firearms. Thanks to their teamwork, they managed to clear the zombies in the area. With everything calm, the kids showed affection for each other, but the girls couldn't help but feel jealous. Later, the doctor suggested going to her friend's apartment since it was nearby, and the doctor had the keys because her friend traveled a lot. After the doctor clung to Takashi during the journey, they arrived at the luxury apartment, which even had a military vehicle. In a safe place now, the girls took a bath, where they showed off their skills, especially the doctor. Of course, we'll skip over those details. Meanwhile, as Ray groped the doctor, the boys checked out the house, which was full of weapons, since the doctor's friend was a military person and apparently also wealthy, judging by all the things in her house. Kuta was extremely excited about the weapons and knew all about them. As it wasn't his first time using firearms, he had been trained by a great retired soldier. On the other hand, the nearby bridge had been blocked, and no one was allowed to pass for the safety of the people. However, this caused chaos, and the police chief had received orders and permission to eliminate people to control the situation. But he didn't do it because he was a good person. However, several people they were protecting protested, coming up with theories that the government caused all this. As the zombies got closer and the people continued to obstruct the way, and it was impossible to reason with them to make them escape, the police chief ended up dealing with them. As the kids were watching the news, the doctor arrived, very drunk and limited in what she could do. She even gave Kuta a kiss. Takashi carried the doctor and even grabbed her backside to keep her from falling. However, when he was taking her to rest, Ray ended up catching him, but she was also drunk. Takashi eventually took the doctor to sleep. When he went for food, Siko had already made dinner, dressed provocatively as her clothes were drying. Although Ray wanted him to pay attention to her, Siko only talked about how she missed Hisashi because he always supported her when she needed it the most, unlike Takashi, who was always angry. He got angry because she only compared him to Hisashi, who was already dead, and she needed to move on because they had to survive. As Ray seemed to only show affection by being treated badly, they ended up sharing a passionate kiss, but Takashi stopped it. On the other hand, the situation at the bridge had worsened because the zombies attacked and people went crazy. Since the police would have to deal with the people, the chief ended up taking his own life. Meanwhile, the zombies had surrounded the kids' house. Takashi couldn't keep watching as people were killed, but Siko was realistic and knew that they would only put themselves in danger and couldn't help everyone if they wanted to survive. Takashi just observed the situation, but also saw a man with his daughter who was begging to be let into a house. However, they were told to leave. The father would break down the door to keep his daughter safe, and they let him in, but only to stab him. Even though they wanted to help, they couldn't, and in his final moments, the father asked his daughter to escape, but she refused to believe he was dead, which led the zombies to her. Takashi didn't know what to do, but Kuta helped the girl. Takashi was surprised by what Kuta did, but since she was a defenseless child, they decided to help her. Ray also wanted to help, but the best option was for Takashi to go alone. He left on the motorcycle and managed to reach the location but fell off, and there were too many zombies for him alone. However, with Kuda covering him, he was able to save the girl. Meanwhile, when the doctor woke up, she and the others also went to help. Given the complicated situation, they would need to go for him in the military vehicle. On the other hand, the girl named Alice wondered if her father was dead. Takashi couldn't lie to her and told her that he was a great father for dying while protecting her, but it wasn't the time to cry. Takashi carried the girl and a puppy that was there, but Alice couldn't hold it and needed to go to the bathroom, which Takashi didn't take very well. When she went to the bathroom on his back, things got complicated, and Takashi couldn't endure it for long. Fortunately, Siko and the others arrived to help. After Siko dealt with some zombies, they were able to reach the vehicle and escape comfortably. The next day, the kids crossed the river, but Rei became jealous when Siko fell asleep on Takashi, although it wasn't intentional. Later, while the girls were changing, Kuda taught Takashi how to use a shotgun. Once the girls had changed, they decided to head to Saya's house since it was nearby, even though there was no guarantee that her parents were still alive. Takashi hoped they were safe. As they moved forward, everything was very calm, which seemed too good to be true. Soon, they encountered zombies, and the only option was to run them over, but there was a wall in front. When they crashed into it, the doctor lost control and Rei fell, making her unable to fight. Takashi rushed to help her, but he couldn't handle the shotgun well. Thanks to Kuda's advice, he improved significantly, but the zombies were overwhelming. Takashi started making mistakes, but with Siko's help, they managed to get out of that situation. Unable to use the shotgun effectively, Takashi hugged Rei and then used her as a base to shoot with the sniper rifle, which was uncomfortable for both her and Siko, who nearly got shot. Takashi was not good with the sniper rifle, but everyone was working together to survive, including Saya. They couldn't escape because the vehicle wouldn't start, and even though they worked together, they couldn't handle so many zombies. Takashi knew they wouldn't survive this way, so he decided to distract the zombies, with Siko also helping out. However, the zombies weren't interested in them and continued to pursue easier prey. Kuda wanted Alice to escape, but she refused to be left alone. Fortunately, just as he was about to throw her, several people appeared who helped the group. When they thanked them for saving them, it turned out that the leader was Yuriko, Saya's mother. Unfortunately, the kids couldn't reach them directly, so they planned to circle around to join the rest. On their way, they found a motorcycle shop but decided to take an all-terrain and amphibious vehicle instead. As they continued, with many zombies around, they stuck to the river. Takashi accidentally splashed Siko, causing her embarrassment. The zombies couldn't cross the river, so the group ended up getting stuck in the sand. While there, Siko changed clothes. Curious, Takashi asked her if she liked anyone, and when she said yes, Takashi didn't seem very pleased. Later, when the group went into the city, which was filled with zombies, Takashi deliberately jumped into a fountain. Siko thought he did it just to get her wet again, but he did it to make noise and attract the zombies, making it easier to deal with them. However, when Siko saw some zombie children, she froze, and Takashi had to save her. They escaped and ended up at a temple where there was a real sword, but Siko wasn't in the mood. Takashi gave her his dry clothes, and after she changed, he cheered her up with some towels they could use to bathe. After a while, Siko decided to explain why she had frozen and about the boy she liked. She couldn't tell the boy she liked because he was a killer. She told Takashi that 4 years ago she was attacked by a man, and she broke several of his bones in self-defense, ending up as a heroine in the eyes of the police. Takashi didn't see anything wrong with that, but she explained that she had pretended to be scared to lure the man, knowing she was stronger. When she beat him up, she enjoyed it because she was naturally ruthless. Due to her desire for power, she thought she didn't deserve to be loved. Takashi had also killed several people, but the difference was that he had changed because of what he went through, whereas Siko had been like that from the start. Seeing the children made her realize that her cruel side was growing more and more. Takashi took her hand, and just by looking at each other, they ended up kissing, as the boy Siko liked was Takashi. The next day, the group was about to leave, but many zombies had arrived. Takashi wanted Siko to escape, but she was frozen in place, so he grabbed her and held her tightly, promising that he would follow her no matter what happened because she was the coolest girl he had ever met. He asked her to live for him and overcome what she had done. Siko calmed down, which made her happy, and since Takashi wouldn't judge her, she fought the zombies with great violence, which made her feel good. Later, before reuniting with the group, Siko asked Takashi to take responsibility and, of course, Takashi agreed. When they finally reunited with the others, they were greeted by Alice and the dog. That same day, Takashi and the doctor would tend to Rei's wounds, which she got when she fell from the vehicle. However, Rei was angry with him because she wanted him to apply the ointment, not the doctor. Takashi didn't understand and was kicked out of the room. Outside, he met Siko, who he complimented on how nice she looked, creating a somewhat awkward atmosphere, but they got along very well. When Alice arrived with the group, Saya also showed up, visibly upset, and was angry with Takashi for calling her by her last name instead of her first name. Then, Yuriko, Saya's mother, arrived. She explained the situation. When everything started, the government ordered the protection of electricity and water plants, which was good but not for the employees, who had to remain locked inside and couldn't see their families. That's why they were protecting those families. Saya was aware of this, but wanted to leave her house because they weren't taken seriously, as they weren't allowed to help or carry weapons because they were considered just kids. When the group gathered, they discussed their options, either obey the adults completely or leave the place. Takashi was unsure about leaving because Saya's father was doing a great job protecting people, and her mother was a very good person. Saya knew her parents were great, but was angry because they abandoned her, thinking she would be dead by now. Takashi was upset with her and said it wasn't just about her. They felt worse because, unlike her, who was fortunate, they didn't know if their parents or loved ones were safe. She understood, so things calmed down. At that moment, Sashiro Takagi, Saya's father, arrived. He brought the former head of the Takagi family, who had been bitten while protecting his family. The man was his best friend, but since he was no longer human, his duty was to end his life. He reminded everyone that to survive, they would have to deal with zombies, even if they were family or friends. Kuda was upset because he thought swords were useless as they rusted and broke quickly. Siko disagreed, and when Takashi tried to calm him down, Kuda pointed out that Takashi couldn't even use a rifle. Saya was angry with Kuda and left, so Takashi went to talk to him. Later, Alice came to ask for help because the adults wanted to take Kuda's weapons away from him, as they were considered dangerous for a child. Kuda simply refused to hand them over. Just as they were about to take them, Saya's father arrived. He saw Kuda's determination and wanted the weapons because he needed them for a purpose he wasn't ready to reveal. But Takashi intervened and said that the weapons could be used to protect Saya, explaining that since everything began, Kuda had protected Saya like no one else. The others confirmed this, and Saya was aware that she would have died if not for Kuda's protection, and that he had defended her unlike her parents. On the other hand, Shido had brainwashed the students so much that he even turned them into perverts, and they said nothing when the professor let a student die for disobeying him. Back with the group, Saya was scolding some adults because they thought Saya's father only wanted to control them and prevented them from seeking a cure, even though none of them were specialist scientists. Their only concern should be avoiding being bitten. However, a woman who played the victim convinced everyone that they were only forced to kill to survive when they didn't want to. Since reasoning with them was impossible, they left them there. But Kuda understood them because it was normal to think everything would be fine and that the problem would be resolved. People only saw what they wanted to see and simply didn't accept reality. Saya congratulated him for maturing, and Takashi acknowledged he was right, so the group praised Kuda, which was why they had chosen him as their leader. On the other hand, Soichiro had given Siko a special sword, as she was the most suited for it and also as a token of gratitude since Saya's father had trained him. Later, Takashi didn't understand why he was chosen as the leader. Rei agreed with the decision, but Takashi was unsure if he was the most suitable, as the strong ones were Siko, Kuda, and Rei. Saya was a genius, and Shizuka was the doctor of the group. Rei admitted that she wouldn't have been right for the leadership role before, but Takashi had changed because he was now always brave and did what needed to be done in the worst situations. Even though it took him a long time to realize, she wanted to stay by his side, even if he fell in love with someone else. Takashi found her words hard to understand, but at that moment, the two ended up kissing. Due to Rei's injuries, their relationship stopped there. After that, Takashi talked with Soichiro because he would be going with Rei to search for her mother and Rei's father. They reached an agreement, but before leaving, Siko would also join them, and she wasn't the only one who wanted to accompany them. However, while they were discussing this, Rei got angry and ran out. The reason was that a student had previously convinced people to let them through, including Ashido, who turned out to be the son of a very important and corrupt person. Ashido hated his own father because he was a tyrant who made them suffer so much that his mother committed suicide. That's why he abandoned his family to dedicate himself to teaching, or so he said, but he continued working for his father. He ordered Rei to be failed because Rei's father was a police officer and refused to cooperate with them. When he spoke his lies, Rei arrived ready to end him because he had caused so much suffering to her father and to her. But she endured the suffering because her father had asked her to continue investigating them and putting them in prison. The man tried to calm her, but Rei was ready to finish him off. Soichiro arrived and, knowing that he was evil like his family, didn't care if Rei ended him. Shido was ready to die, but Rei thought it wasn't worth killing a rat, so Soichiro ended up kicking out Shido and the students he had misled, which prevented many problems. But then new problems arose. The US government was desperate due to the zombies and ordered bombs to be dropped on Japan because they believed the virus originated there. Japan's war bunkers detected the projectiles in time and launched counter-projectiles to stop them. They would have succeeded, but one bunker didn't fire because the entire crew had turned into zombies. On the other hand, the doctor was able to contact her friend, who wanted to know where she was to help her. But just as she was about to tell her, her phone exploded and the bomb went off. Saya realized what was happening. The projectile was an electromagnetic pulse bomb, which caused all electronic devices, including modern cars, to stop working because it burned out their integrated circuits. So, all electronic devices had ceased to function. Soichiro understood the situation, and Saya knew that they could repair the cars by replacing the burned-out parts. Moreover, classic cars still worked. Soichiro praised Saya for her intelligence and for staying calm. However, at that moment, zombies began to enter because Shindo lost control of the truck and crashed into the barricade, allowing the zombies to get in. Soichiro ordered the mansion to be sealed, and Kuda dealt with the zombie that had managed to enter. Then Saya's mother prepared to fight and asked Kuda to teach Saya how to use a pistol. However, the zombies were too numerous and ended up breaking down the doors, causing chaos. The kids fought off the zombies and managed to get several people to safety. In the face of the situation, Soichiro convinced the men to fight and protect the women and children, as otherwise, everyone would die. Since the kids had already decided to leave, Soichiro asked Takashi to take their own path and entrusted Kuda with protecting his daughter. Saya didn't agree, but her mother made her understand that it was hard for them to leave her in the care of others, but they needed to stay and protect the people. So, the kids left while the adults fought against the zombies. The kids arrived at the workshop where the mechanic had fixed the engine, and before escaping, the mechanic decided to stay behind of his own accord. When the kids were leaving, Saya couldn't say goodbye to her father. To cross the barricade, they performed a dangerous maneuver, but thanks to that, they were able to escape without issues. Meanwhile, Saya's parents fought with honor. As the kids continued, Saya didn't want to talk about the situation, but they had to keep moving to search for Takashi's mother, Rei's father, and the doctor's friend. It was very difficult with so many zombies, and in the end, the kids crashed the vehicle but managed to reach a shopping mall. The anime concludes here. And that's the end of the summary of this wonderful anime. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button, as it helps and motivates me to keep creating more content for you. See you soon.